Can going beyond just the normal question and answer session really transform your podcast into a marketing powerhouse? You betcha. It sure can. You want to find out how? Well, guess what? You need to stay tuned. Thank you. Glad you are back for this week. I'm really excited to talk about like the structure and the questions and stuff like that behind it. And really how to start to finish to turn your podcast into this marketing powerhouse. So before we get into that, speaking of marketing powerhouses, I want you to do me a favor. Go to pedalstopperproductions.com. Make sure you are signed up for our newsletter. It comes out about every other week. Sometimes we get it every week. We talk a little bit about like the podcast from that week. We go into a deeper dive on one of those sections to make sure that you've got the right information. It's all actionable stuff. For us, it's just a way to stay in contact with you. So do me a favor, pedalstopperproductions.com. Go sign up for that. Now let's get into the meat of the show, because what I want you to start with, who is going to, your customers have questions, right? I mean, no matter what you do, no matter what you sell, I mean, it could be bonbons. People are going to be like, how are these made? Where did they come from? How do you make them? Things of that nature. So your customers are always going to have questions. At least hopefully they do. Why not find out what your customers want to hear? Use be it social media platforms. Heck, use your newsletter. Do you have an email newsletter? Use your email newsletter to reach out and say, hey, look, who's got a question? Additionally, and this is something that we do all the time, we've got our 30-minute no-pitch podcast consultation where we sit down with you. We talk via, we don't typically use Zoom. We'll use Google Meets, right? Or we'll even use Riverside. But we look at those conversations and we say, look, what is the thing that we're typically talking about? In fact, next week's episode is all about audio, and it stems from that because that is a big thing that we're always getting questions about, or ways that we're helping people with their podcast. So look at those conversations that you're having with your customers, and what are those questions that they're asking? In that, what you can do is if you've got 2 or 3 customers that have asked the same question, tag them. Let them know the show's coming up. Send them a personal email saying, hey, I know we talked about this, but I answered your question on the show this week, and I really want to thank you for bringing that up. Once again, it's going to enrich that relationship that you have with that customer or that possible customer. It's also going to help create pre-show buzz. Ask them if they'd be willing to share it. You'd be surprised how many people like, hey, look, I answered your question on this. Could you share this with your network? A lot of cases, people will. The biggest piece of this is people know you're hearing them. They know that you're listening, that you're engaged. That is huge. I mean, let's face it. We all want to be heard, whether it's by a podcast host, our spouse, or anyone. It doesn't matter. Being heard is one of the just best things that can happen with someone. So make sure that people know that they are heard. From there, now that we've got kind of the stuff sourced, you know what I'm going to break into next. You have to have a hook. Every episode needs to start with something just kapow. I mean, bring people in, make them excited. I mean, establish what the episode's about, but do it in a way that makes sure that people want to tag along for that ride. I know so many podcast hosts that start out with like, hey, this week I have Bob on, and Bob's going to talk about the things. And you're like, why do I want to listen to Bob? I mean, Bob could be a great guy, but why would I want to listen to him? If you say, Bob is here to solve all your problems, you have a specific problem that I know you've been facing all the time, and Bob is the guy that typically solves it, and that's why I'm having him on my podcast. Now you've got someone interested. Make sure you find a way to do that. That hook is the single most important thing to your podcast. Now, another way that you can do that is you can take a soundbite from whatever Bob, your guest, said. Find that most important thing that Bob said. Find that thing that just was shocking or was, just a great answer, and put that first. Now, I'm going to warn you on that. Some people, I've seen them do this. They put the entire question, the entire answer there. Your hook should not be 3 or 4 minutes long, and I see that all the time. Your hook, 15 to 30 seconds tops. People aren't going to stick around that long to listen for what the big moment is. Sink the hooks in early. Make it that shocker moment. Make it that just revelation. Make it that thing that is just frames them as this expert guest, this high-level insight. That is huge for you. That is what's going to make the difference in your podcast being successful, because that's going to keep people listening. From there, I want you to make it, like, if you've got a guest, you need to, like, what I like to call it is that brand bridge questions. How does your guest, or how does the topic you're talking about relate to your brand? How does it relate to what you do? So many people bring guests on that are just random people, and they may be very smart, and they may have some amazing things to say, and they may be somewhat relevant to your topic, but how does it lead back to your brand? What does it do? What does them being on your show do to help you? Once again, you guys know I love shout outs to Bill at the Late to Grid podcast. He does a phenomenal job of talking with people about their racing journey, because he is all about educating people about their racing journey. And once again, that comes back to how he and his brand can help them with that. There's your shout out, Bill. It's nonetheless, it really is. It's making that connection. Chrissy at the Better Business podcast, she does the same thing. She's talking about health insurance. She's talking about HR. She's talking to people about how they can make theirs better. And in a lot of cases, the answer that people get is like, hey, this is an answer if you want to do it on your own, but it's easier to call us. That's a great way to do things. You're educating people. You're offering them value. Because the other piece to that is the fact that, once again, you're going to have an educated customer show up. I love everything related to that. So make sure that, like, when you're asking questions, how do those questions relate back to your brand? How do they relate to what you do? How do they relate to moving your mission forward? There's from the marketing aspect of it, it really is. It's the art of the non-salesy sales pitch. Here's great things. Here's great information. Here's what we do with it. That is educating your customer. And it's not doing it in a salesy way, but they're probably going to conclude that, hey, it's probably a good idea to have these people help me out. I want you to take the next step in this is making sure that, besides just the brand bridge, is that when you're looking at the interview or when you're looking at the topic, it's structured around like the core pillars of your business or what you do. For us, it's easy. I talk about success as a shared thing. The better we make you as a podcaster, the better the podcasting industry is going to be overall. That's great for all of us. Success is a shared thing. That is great for all of us. What I worry about is some people just have random chats about things and they don't look at their pillars. They wander around stuff. They may not even end up talking about something that's really relevant to their brand. So if you make sure that like your pillars are involved with this, like I said, for us, our core values, success is a shared thing. That's why we do the podcast. Maybe, look at radical innovation, effortless sustainability, building a community. What are the things that like are core pillars of your business? Make sure that it fills in one of those core pillars for what you're doing. The next thing is I want you to make sure that we like to call it mining the content. We use some AI tools to help us get those social media clips, but we encourage people to ask direct questions that are going to build those sound bites. If you ask someone something that's got a 5-minute answer to it, well, guess what? That's probably not going to fit into a reel or anything like that. But if you ask them something that's going to have a concise answer, that will really change the amount of content that you're going to get on the back end of this. It's go into the podcast with this marketing mindset of how can I get these pointed things? Now, what I don't want you to do is just go in and ask 20 questions that all have one sentence answers. That's not good for anyone either. But get that short answer up front, that short pointed answer. Ask those awkward short pointed answer questions up front, and then get the explanation later. Then go diving back in for that explanation. But it's a two-step process. So many people leave out that first step and they just let people roll, and then it's tougher to find those like sharp points anywhere in the podcast. People will sprinkle brilliance throughout the podcast, but they won't put a chunk of it in one spot. So what I tell you to do is try and make sure that you're asking that pointed, concise question that's going to have a sharp answer where people are going to answer that right up front. It's getting that 15 to 45 second answer is just a huge deal for getting that back end social media content. Once again, this is doing this with this. It's being intentional about this. We have too many people that we see as podcasts that are out there where people are just going on and saying, look, we're going to have a great conversation. And you might, but those are tougher to come by. If you do the planning, if you do the preparation, if you do the work to make that great conversation, you end up so much further ahead with where you're going to be in terms of that back end content. The other thing I want you to do is next step is look at those calls to action. It shouldn't be, hey, visit our website. It needs to be relevant to the conversation. Earlier, I talked about, hey, sign up for the email. And then we talked about like working with those email things. It's relevant. It's not random. Don't give 10 calls to action throughout the thing that are just, hey, do this. Because at that point, then listening to your podcast to me becomes a job. And I don't want or need another job. I want to listen to your podcast and I want to enjoy it. So find a way to ask some questions that may work your call to action into that. Once again, I'm going to say Chrissy with the Better Business for Small Business Leaders podcast, between her health insurance and HR firms, when like she talks to someone about health insurance, there's a lot of great information there. And she says, call your broker. Well, in a lot of cases, guess who that broker is probably going to end up being? Well, I haven't called my broker, but these people seem really nice, so I'm going to call them instead. Once again, it's a related call to action. It's a relevant call to action. And this kind of goes along with that like non-pitchy sales pitch. Once again, you're telling people, hey, go do something for your own good. And if you just happen to call us, that's even that much better. From a marketing impact standpoint, it's going to provide like this immediate tangible result. It makes the call to action feel helpful. And like I said, not an ad. This is where so many people fall short with their podcast because they're losing the lead generation side of it, and they need to have that with that for it to be successful. So make sure that you've got that integrated call to action that is going to work well with your podcast. The other thing I want to talk about too is making sure that your guests are prepared. If it's question and answer, if it's not a question and answer, if it's a solo episode, make sure that you're prepared, but make sure that your guests are prepared. Give them something to use like before the podcast and give them something after the podcast. what do I mean by before the podcast? Make sure they've got the link. Make sure you talk about like, hey, camera setup. Make sure you talk about headphones. By golly, make sure they're wearing headphones. Big sticking point for me. But those types of things, make sure that you set them up for success with that. Then after the show, send them direct links to the podcast on all of the platforms. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora. I mean, Google Podcasts is now YouTube Podcasts. Holy cow, it's been a long day already. That to me, it's give them everything in a package. Additionally, if you're cutting stuff up into clips, send them some of the clips. Send them some of that stuff that, like, on the back end of stuff, like, hey, here's a couple of clips. Can you post them and tag us in it? If it's on Instagram, make sure that you invite them as a collaborator. Do those things. Maximize your value for your time. Does it take a little bit of effort? Sure. Is it the fun part? No. But those are the things that will really help you in growing your show and working to get that audience. The easier you make it for your guest to share the episode, to share the social media, and to share your message, the more likely it is to have happen. We found overall, it's probably about 2/3 of people will share at least something. So don't think that because you're not batting 1,000 with this, you're a failure. There's a lot of people that won't end up sharing stuff. But if you keep in mind that you still need to do it because that is high value in terms of getting that other person's audience, it's a great thing to do. And by making it easier, you increase those odds. So the quick recap of this: first, engage your community. Find out what they're curious about. Get those questions. Find out what they'd like to know. Second, make sure you write a hook that's going to tell them, hey, this is what we're doing, and we're answering your questions. Third, act as like the brand bridge. Make sure that you are tying this in to your brand and focus on like a brand pillar. That's the fourth piece. Focus on a pillar of the brand. So find a way to tie it into the brand overall, and then find a way to drill down even further and focus on one of your brand pillars. Fifth, make sure you repurpose your content. It's a huge thing with the podcast. Make sure you're able to cut that up and send that back out. It really is what turns your podcast into a marketing tool. The next thing is create that valuable call to action. It's got to fit. It shouldn't sound like work to people. That to me is the biggest part of it to an effective call to action. It shouldn't sound like work for people. For me, the call to action that I'm going to leave you with is I really want to talk to you because I want to find out more about your podcast and I want to help. We've got our 30-minute no-pitch podcast consultation. There's zero pitch in it. You can ask me whatever you want to about podcasts. We will take a look and take a listen to a last couple of episodes in your podcast to give you like, hey, here's what you can do with your camera. Here's what you can do with your audio. Here's what we may suggest with editing. We'll look at things like that and we will make suggestions for you. If you want more information, if you want pricing, whatever like that, I'm happy to disclose that, obviously. But really, for us, it is 100% no pitch. We are here to help you get better as a podcaster. We want to make sure you look good. We want to make sure you sound good. And we want to make sure that if you have guests, you are asking the right questions. Links below if you want to go ahead and sign up for that. Nonetheless, do me a favor. Make sure that you take care of yourself. If you can, take care of someone else too, as I will see you very, very soon.